lastly, we are going to touch on comments made by Jaleel White, who is currently doing press for a book that he's written. Jaleel White is now doing the author thing, and he recently was doing a speaking engagement, and he touched on his ostracization from black art because he said that if it's not a hood story, then it's not a black story. And he always knew what lane he would occupy, being that he came from a family show like Family Matters, and like the area in terms of how it's perceived when it comes to like art and television and all of that kind of stuff with respect to black people, right? So he's like, hey man, if it's not a hood story, it's not a black story. And so in certain respects, he feels snubbed in that regard, in terms of, when people think about, you know, black entertainment or black art, according to him, Family Matters is often not really talked about. People bring up other things like Martin or Living Single or shows like this, Wayans Brothers, even probably people will bring up stuff like that before they bring up what he was involved in because of the nature of what they did. So here is what Mr. White had to say.
Being a part of the TGIF brand sometimes makes you feel like you don't completely belong in the pantheon of blackness. Blackness has been treated as a very monolithic experience in entertainment. If it's not a hood story, it's not a black story. And sometimes I feel left out of that. So it's like like if there's ever a poll and they say, oh, what are your favorite black shows? And Martin is in there, or Living Single, or any of those guys, I already know we coming in last. But if there's ever a poll and it's just like your favorite family shows and suddenly Martin's not in there or whatever, all of a sudden we rank really high. And so it's kind of interesting at how we look at ourselves, to be quite honest, even as black folks. And somehow I became a symbol for black male nerd culture, to be quite honest. I mean, I know this for a fact. Any brother that grew up in the 80s and 90s, well, 90s and 2000s, wearing glasses, he was told at school he looked like me. He was called Urkel. And he didn't look anything like me, guaranteed. But still, his peers would find a way to call him Urkel, and even girls to that extent. So it's really humbling to see how far nerd culture has come. And really, it's not nerd culture; it's smart culture. It's hobbyist culture. It's skateboarders. And I could never have known in a million years that I would be the face of that. I never could have known that.
Oh, get out of
here. Hey, no free shout outs, man.
So yeah, this is the second time in what, 2 weeks? Or did we talk about him last week, or was that 2 weeks ago?
A couple weeks ago.
So yeah, this is the second time in as many weeks that we have talked about him on the channel. What did you think about that?
I mean, I saw his point. I was disagreeing, bro, because at least from our cohort, man, Family Matters is up there. But I think his overall thing, because I guess he looks at these polls because he's invested. But when you ask people what's their favorite TV show, growing up or whatever, yeah, Martin's going to be up there. And Family Matters is up there for me. But then when he qualified and I said, what's your favorite family show? Then Family Matters goes all the way up there. Then I said, oh, I see your point there. But Family Matters is still high for me. I like Family Matters more than I like what's the Fresh Prince.
Yeah,
I did. I would rather watch Full House instead of that. Not Full House. Family Matters.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but yeah, man, TGIF, man, that was the play. Was Urkel the universal punchline? He was the universal punchline growing up. In school, that was the joke. You didn't want to be labeled as that. You didn't want to be called that. So I mean, I get his point with that, but I also think that he's selling us. I think he's selling us a little short here with that. But he lived this experience, and that's my thing with this. This is his unique experience. He was Urkel. So he was typecasted in Hollywood as well.
Mm-hmm.
So whenever he tried to deviate and he wants to be on a crime show, not the criminal itself, but just a badass detective or something, it's like, look, Jaleel, I don't know if we can swing this. Everybody's used to you. Wait, look, we got this role for you where you can play that. I don't want to do that. I want to be an actor.
He's talked about that too. He's talked about how Urkel essentially doomed him into being typecasted.
Yeah, he thinks he's a real thespian. So he wants to be really out there acting. But my thing is but honestly, there's only a few people that's made the crossover from any type of show like this, any sitcom, anything. Like if you were in that and you had a role in it, it's hard to do that crossover, man, to actually into legitimate stuff, because people will always see you as Kramer. You know what I'm saying? People will always see you as whatever, And so for Jaleel here, everybody's gonna see him as Urkel, man. He played the hell out of that. Yeah. But that's why I always say, man, there's always something saying that, hey, man, you played the role so well that everybody always sees it when they see you. So there's something commendable behind that. But I think what all of his talk from in that little video there was coming from personal experience. I mean, what else would it be coming from? But it's personalized stuff where he has lived this life where he wanted to be more than that character. And it wasn't seen. Nobody can still see it. And on top of that, where it comes to the point where, to speak on the hood aspect of it, I do agree with that. I do think that there is too much centered around our classics that are centered around drugs, gangs, and unalivings. I think it's way too much of that. So I do see his point in that, but I think most of his initial, I don't want to call it frustration, but I'll say lack of better words, frustration. It's not so much the fact that he, Family Matters wasn't hood enough or anything like that. I just really think the guy just got typecasted.
Mm-hmm.
And I think he rationalizes everything outside of that. But what are your thoughts, man, on Sir Jaleel White? You know what I'm saying? Out here on his book tour, but basically saying that, hey, man, Family Matters was pretty much a show that wasn't held in high enough esteem in our community because, well, it wasn't hood enough. What are your thoughts, man?
I mean, I do somewhat understand what he's saying, but I think I would understand it more in film than television.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think in film, if you were to ask people what are some of your classic, black movies, for lack of a better way to explain it, movies, people are going to bring up, Boys in the Hood, Menace to Society, Friday, Juice, all of these. Yeah, they're going to bring up movies like that, Above the Rim.
Hey, Above the Rim hard. Though.
Yeah, but these are going to be a lot of the movies that people bring up, and these are gritty street stories for the most part.
They are.
Friday is a comedy, obviously, but it's a street comedy. It's still street stuff.
It is.
So in terms of film, I see what he's talking about. But in terms of TV, I don't really, unless he's talking about currently today. Because during his era, I mean, I think that was the golden era.
It was
of black entertainment on television.
It was.
Because you had Family Matters and Fresh Prince, and you had Wayans Brothers, and yeah, Martin was doing his thing, and Living Single was doing his thing. But there was also My Wife and Kids and My Brother and Me. So there were a lot of black shows on television. Smart Guy, Sister, right? Mm-hmm. So there were Hanging with Mr. Cooper. In the house with LL Cool J.
That's right.
So there were a lot of shows, black shows on TV during that time that gave you a balance of what you wanted to get into. Did you want to get into crime stuff, street stuff, gritty stuff, comedy, family stuff. It was, it was a smorgasbord. I really do like the 90s into the very early 2000s, because by the mid 2000s it was done. But, in the 90s into the early 2000s, I would say that was the golden era of black television. So if he's talking about his heyday, I don't really see his point. But if he's talking about presently, I completely concede that 100%. Because now we are fully, if it's not Power or BMF or the family business,
Oh
or
my God.
if it's not traumatainment, that's what I call it.
Yeah, good
If it's
call.
not traumatainment, it ain't getting on. And I'm not trying to throw stones at people like Tyler Perry or 50 Cent, but I just call that traumatainment, in my opinion, because whenever they put something on TV that they produced, it's drugs, guns, prison, or infidelity, single parent household, baby mama, baby daddy, cheating stuff. It's something like that. It's something like that. Just general dysfunctionality. And so I would say right now there is a dearth of variety when it comes to black entertainment, specifically on television. I would also argue that there's a dearth of a variety of black entertainment when it comes to film too, because you and I lament this often. Let's get some black people doing Lord of the Rings, Harry Potter, Star Wars stuff. Let's get some black people doing Back to the Future, time travel. Let's get some of that going. Where it's a majority black cast, because you'll have black characters in some of these IPs, but an original story that is a sci-fi or a fantasy or a western. Well, they've had a couple of westerns, but sci-fi or a fantasy or something like this, where it's a majority black cast and it's produced by a black producer or a production company or something, where the majority of the creative decisions are being made by people who are black. I would say that we're still at a dearth of that when it comes to both film and television today. But back in the day, I would say, we had that. So, if you ask people our age and older, some people are going to bring Family Matters up. I'll bring Family Matters up. Yeah. Now, if you're talking about these Gen Zers and these tweeners and these dudes that paint their nails, maybe they won't bring up Family Matters, but they don't even watch TV. They just watch goofy memes and videos on TikTok all day.
Agreed. And they didn't have that. They had Phineas and Ferb and all that.
Yeah. These kids today are growing up watching stuff where there is a sex scene in every other scene.
Agree.
So like they don't have a point of reference with which to juxtapose it from. So I say all of that to say that I'm inclined to agree with you, although I didn't think about that initially. He perhaps is speaking from the vantage point of being someone who was typecasted from the thought of, we don't want to put you in any of our stuff because you don't represent black art, because you did family stuff your whole career, and we want to make this other stuff over here. And since that's synonymous with black art and you ain't a part of that, we're not going to let you in. And so maybe that's the perspective with which he speaks. But overall, I would say during the time in which Family Matters was at its apex, I would say that was the renaissance of black entertainment on TV, in my opinion.
I agree.
Everything wasn't drugs, guns, infidelities, baby mama, baby daddy, cheating, alimony, dysfunctional backstabbing. Everything wasn't that. Illegal activity otherwise. There were wholesome things going on all over the place back then. And I would say that for the time was black art just as much as the street stuff in movies was the black art back then, or the street stuff in both movies and television is the black art today.
I agree, man. And to speak on the typecast and stuff, he doesn't represent, what authentically represent us. So with that, they're not gonna put him in any roles. But again, that's not an indictment on the viewers. That's not an indictment on the people that want to watch this type of stuff. It's an indictment on the industry, that is just saying that that's the only thing that these Negroes want to watch.
And people like 50 Cent, who put words
play
to that
into that.
idea.
Yeah, he
Yeah,
plays in.
where he's literally saying his shows authentically represent Black and Latinos.
Right. Oh yeah, I can't forget our Latino brothers. You know what I'm saying? Because they're nothing but criminals too. You know, allegedly. You know, I'm just first of all, YouTube is a joke. All right, calm down. But yeah, that's what they think of us, man. And so nah, man. I don't know if good wholesome comedy. I think it's still room for that. And I think that there's still room for that. Now, sitcoms, just in general, I mean, those shows still come out every year
They do.
or every other year, so there's still sitcom-y things happening, but they're still cringe and they're following the old formula. But I do think there's room for a family comedy still, and because even though my wife and kids came later, that's some funny stuff, bro.
It was funny.
Yeah, that's some funny
Yeah.
stuff, especially for the time that it came out in. The heyday was pretty much over for the most part, but they were still making quality family home comedy stuff. So there's room for it still. The people still want to laugh. People still want to see wholesome. So I don't think it's so much an indictment on our community. I think it's more of an indictment of how they've been conditioned.
Correct. Yeah.
So, but shout out to Jaleel, man. I feel like, being a character like that, being Urkel like that, and yeah, bro, being that character, being him, literally the guy that personified, like he said, nerdisms.
Yeah.
That must be a hell of an experience just trying to go to Target.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And just like how the Dave Chappelle joke, like I mentioned before, and it's a hoo hoo hoo, I'm Rick James, bitch. And it's like everywhere he goes, he's like, did I do that? It's like, hey, bro, I'm just trying to get a cheeseburger right now, man.
I honestly believe that I don't know this for a fact, but I've always speculated that part of the reason why they introduced the character of Stefan Urkel
Yes,
was so that he had the chance to not be Urkel all the time.
I
Like
agree.
it gave him the opportunity to be a character on that show that was more closer to his actual personality.
But I wasn't buying it. But I knew, but I agree with you. Even at that time, I was like, man, he just trying to show us how he really get on. And it's like, but I don't really think he get on like this. But I felt like it was just supposed to balance out. Like, hey, man, just look at this guy a different way. And it's like, sorry, bro. I mean, this is what it is.
Yeah.
And that's what TV does. And that's the people say, oh yeah, it's just suspension of belief or whatever that saying is. And it's like, nah, man, people really take this stuff on. And when they watch it, they see that person. And so I can't help but sometimes to call him Urkel. Hey, that's Urkel.
Yeah.
And it's like, I know his name, and I've been to his name, but I'll still say Urkel first. And that's his life. So every time he internalizes something, every time he has a take on something, it's through those lenses. So I'm pretty sure that's why, he was coming off like that. But there's truth to what he was saying. But I also think that there's truth to what I'm saying is that, he sees worlds through his Urkel lenses, no pun intended. And that, he might be a little this or a little that at times because he had to grow up like that.
Yeah, he might feel some type of way.
Yeah, I would
He might
say.
feel some type of way. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, that reminds me of another Chappelle joke where he's talking about people doing celebrity hero worship, and he's like, you know why we got to give out fake phone numbers? He was like, he's like, when you go and watch a movie, what does the character always say? Hey man, what's your phone number? 555-555-555. And he's like, you know why we got to do that? Because stupid ass people will go home and then try to call a character that gets called. He's like, hello, is Indiana Jones here?
Exactly.
Like, no, he's fake. It's not his number. But yeah, I mean, that's probably a lot of what he experienced, man. Look, I feel for the guy. I do. He seemed like a genuine dude to me. I do think that there is an element of ostracization that takes place on his behalf unfairly, because the current form of Black art and entertainment is cut from a particular mold. I think he was more appreciated 20 years ago And I think now he's just kind of looked at as an other. We
Yeah,
talk about this,
yeah, yeah,
this dynamic plays out in all facets. We talk about that.
yeah.
So Lenny Kravitz is other, Jimmy Allen, well, maybe not Shabuzi for whatever reason. He's
He,
being looked at as
well,
black.
yeah, I guess. I think it's probably his hair.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, that could be it. That's a good point. But yeah, so like some of these other people who are in alternative fields, even though they're not really alternative, alternative in terms of perception, and they're viewed as others. And I think he's in with that, being looked at as an other. And I feel for that because, he's just at heart, he just was an artist who was doing a particular kind of art, and his intention wasn't to get typecasted or perceived to be an other. It's just something that kind of happened as a result. So I feel his pain in that regard, because no one should be ostracized. We are not a monolithic experience, even though some would have us believe we are. We're not. And so I hear him when he talks about that. But I do think that back then, there was an appreciation for what he had going on. And I do think people would have brought up Family Matters back then, myself included. I would have
I
brought
agree.
it up. So
1,000, myself included, bro.
yeah. But I hear you, Jaleel, man. Keep doing your thing, bro. Don't let it stop your train, man. You got a whole life ahead of you still, bro. You'll be all right.
Yeah, bro. Just keep being a thespian.
That was always a funny word. Thespian. Yeah. Oh man. But yeah, that'll do it for us, ladies and gentlemen. That is another stream in the books.
Yeah.
Conscious Approach on YouTube. JD Wins, Dogon SS. As always, kicking that logical content in your ear. Great topics tonight. We appreciate the participation. If you are catching any of our video uploads, leave a comment, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel. Let us know what you think about the commentary in any of our content. And often we will reference content that we made back in the past. Click on some of those old videos, man, because we drop gems in the old stuff, just like we drop gems in the new stuff. So spare no expense. Check out all of the videos that we publish, because dare I say, I think we do what we do at a decently high level. Follow us on Instagram at Conapproach, CONAPPROACH. I am also on Instagram at JVWins, JVWINS. Check out the podcast if you're on the go, you're doing a long drive, however, if you want to check us out, we are on Spotify, we are on Apple Podcasts. The link is in the description of this and every other video. So check us out. You can, for your audio pleasure, hit that play button and ride out. Full episode right there, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. And on that note, 3 away from 1,000. I want to, ahead of time, thank everybody for the support, for the participation. As we continue to carve our little niche here on YouTube, I am indebted to everyone who hits that subscribe button, because you certainly don't have to do it. So if you take the step to click the button, it's because you genuinely appreciate the content that we deliver on the channel. And I appreciate everyone who appreciates the content that we deliver on the channel. We don't try to run a cult. We don't want everybody to agree with us. We just like to say what's on our mind, give our honest takes, and you can receive it and, opine however you like. With that out of the way, I'll go ahead and give the rest of the time to Dogon SS. I will say, think for yourself, have a mind of your own, don't be a group thinker, and we will catch you on the next video.
Yeah. And bro, I'll second everything you were saying there, man. Hey, thank everybody, man. 997, bro, we all up in here. And first of all, pat yourselves on the back, because honestly, bro, for y'all to be here on the ground floor, you know what I'm saying, with us at the beginning of this thing, and you can say with pride that, hey man, I was part of that first 1K, bro. You know what I'm saying? So pat yourselves on the back as well, because as JV Wynn said, man, for y'all to be chilling with us like this, it gives us the mojo to come back again next week to spit more hot fire like Dylon. All right. So until the next time, guys, like I say on earlier pod, all right, don't be too high, don't be too low. Keep it calm, keep it chill, keep it pure. And don't let anybody get you off your pivot. So until the next episode, everyone, more rings than Robert Ory. hit that like and subscribe. We'll see y'all next week. Skrr, skrr.
That's right. We are out until the next time. We'll catch y'all on the flip side. We are out. Thank you very much. Peace.
Peace. Go Canes for life. Nah,
And-
we ain't make a championship.
And Pat, man, make sure you get a damn good haul for that Jimmy Butler trade because we know it's coming.
Oh, please
Don't
trade
play
that
with
man. Get him out of here. Oh, Heat too while we at it. Skrr, skrr.
You.
Hell yeah.